Fedora 15 Lovelock has finally landed, and here we are with the final release of Fedora 15. Of course, the big news with Fedora 15 is GNOME 3, with GNOME Shell as the default interface. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a poke around the GNOME 3 interface, and I'm going to make a few comments just about the direction that Fedora is going, in contrast to the direction that a lot of other distributions are going, namely Ubuntu. So first of all, since I haven't talked about GNOME 3 at all in my reviews, we're going to have a pretty extensive look around GNOME 3 and just the developments that they've made over the last, well, really 2-3 years that it's been in development. Honestly, my first impressions are very good. I have been trying Fedora 15 and GNOME 3 on and off for since the beta, but here we are with the final, and apart from the improved artwork, which is quite nice, there's been a few tweaks and changes, but honestly most of it is unchanged. So first of all, I'm sure most of you are familiar with how to access your programs and files in GNOME 3, and of course it's the activities button up here, so you can either click it or you can swipe your mouse up to it. Now first comment that I make is that if you're a mouse person, this can be quite a long haul for you. So say if you have an application running, so for this example we'll just get the file browser up and going. So say you have an application running like Nautilus, and we'll drag it over here into the middle, and then you want to launch something else like, well, let's say you wanted to launch DejaDupe, which is the backup tool. You have to come up here, and then you have to come over here, Applications, and then you have to scroll down to wherever DejaDupe is, and it'll be around here somewhere, I think. Yep, there it is, and then you have to click that. Now that can be quite a long haul, especially if you're a mouse person. If you're a keyboard person, your journey is a little bit better. You simply hit the meta key, start typing Deja, and it'll come up with DejaDupe, and you just press enter, and that's all there is to it. So that is very smooth. Actually, it's very nice on the keyboard side. On the mouse side, it's a little bit more. You have to cover a bit more room, but that's really only my major gripe with GNOME Shell. Apart from that, it's a very modern desktop experience. This is something very different. They're not copying anyone else. They're even taking quite a different stance to Unity. This is an entirely new GTK library. This isn't GNOME 2 with another shell stuck on top of it like Unity is. It is GNOME 3, GTK 3. All of the libraries, all of the widget sets, everything is new with Fedora 15 and future releases that are going to be based around GNOME 3. Secondly, I want to talk about notification icons. Now, the notification icons have gone through significant rework, and they look extremely nice. Now, if you have a decent graphics card, these will gently fade in and out as you scroll across them, but since I'm running this in VirtualBox, it's not the best 3D acceleration. But they all look very nice, very monochrome with a soft glow on them, which is very nice designer touch. And of course, you've got a me menu type of thing here, which is your login, logout type thing. Now, the other one that's been the other issue that's been causing some controversy is this suspend button, which can be changed to the power off if you hold down Alt, and you can see that's what I'm doing now. So that is a slight bit inconvenient, but come on, who shuts down their computer 3 times a day anymore? Except for dual booters like myself. Anyway, moving along, we have the calendar here on top, which again is very, very nice, and you have instant integration into Evolution Mail and Calendar, which is also extremely nice to see. You can see at a glance what you've got going on today, what you've got going on tomorrow. This is a wonderful addition, in my opinion. It looks very nice, very modern, and you can see it's launched the Evolution Setup Assistant. That is simply fantastic. And then again, back to activities. This is where most of the action is going to happen. So say you want to launch Nautilus, and why don't we launch something else as well? What's something else we can launch? What about, okay, calculator. That's nice and easy. So basically your workspace, of course, is your desktop. Nothing is new there, but anytime you want to launch a new application or reorder your windows as far as workspaces are concerned, you put your mouse back up into the top corner there, and it will drag all your windows into view much like the expose type feature, and then you drag Windows into the relevant workspace that you want to create. And these workspaces, the way they work is extremely dynamic. You have you can drag around windows inside of these workspaces, but you don't have a set amount. Now this has been quite a bothersome to some people, but in my opinion it's a modern evolution of workspaces. Workspaces is something that Linux has had for a very long time now, and it's good to see that they're actually doing some innovation on the part of these workspaces. And in my opinion, it makes it more accessible for new users to understand the principle and the concept behind workspaces. So yeah, honestly, I think it's a nice touch, but your mileage will vary. So you can see here that anytime you drag a window into a new desktop, it will either create or delete a desktop based on what exactly you've been doing. So you can see I had an empty desktop up the top here before, and I'll repeat the process. Drag calculator down from the top here all the way down to the bottom, and it deletes this top one and plops a new one in underneath. And you can see here that I've got calculator presented on this desktop that I'm now on. Keyboard shortcuts for switching desktops still work, so you can still switch your desktops around using your keyboard shortcuts like you did with GNOME 2.x. But in my opinion, it's a very nice evolution of the workspace experience. Definitely something you need to get used to if you're going to use GNOME 3, as it is an integral part of the desktop experience. But that's all I've really got to say on that. It's a nice addition, in my opinion. Once you get used to it, once you get your head around the workflow involved, I think you'll be fine. So secondly, along the side here we have the launcher, and basically this is just like any other dock. You pin commonly used applications to that dock, and of course then you can launch them from as soon as you swipe your mouse up into the corner. So let's, for instance, drag gedit onto the dock, and you can see here that it's very easy to drag and drop applications. So I can simply drag that on there, and now I've got that to launch when you want. Secondly, notifications in GNOME 3 are very, very fancy indeed. If you notice, when I dropped gedit onto the launcher, it actually came up with a notification down the bottom saying it has been added to your launcher. So if I pick up Solitaire, so we'll drag it over. We'll drag it over to the favorites, to the panel, and if you look down the bottom, then you can see the Solitaire has been added to your favorites, and it swipes up here with a lovely notification. And the same goes for instant messaging, for email. The desktop experience is very integrated, especially with GTK apps. Support for KDE and Qt apps is yet to be there, but I'm sure eventually it will be. So they've done a great job with the notification integration into the desktop. I know that sounds extremely wordy. So secondly, let's just take a quick peek at the applications. This is something that GNOME 3 shines. The application peek that you can get here is just a quick sweeping glance at what you've got installed. Again, this is fantastic for a touchscreen experience, much better than Unity in my opinion as far as a touchscreen experience goes. This would look simply dashing on a tablet, and you can see here that we've got very nice categorization on the side here, and that is something that Unity badly needs, as the categorization in Unity is quite dodgy to say the least, unless you're launching things from the side launcher all the time. So you can see here that everything is sorted out quite nicely, and I can just quickly skim through and see what apps I have installed. So that's very, very handy. As far as Fedora as a distribution goes, it's basically just very core basic GNOME. We just get a lot of the GNOME tools, a lot of the GNOME accessories, a few GNOME games, all the GNOME graphics utilities, Shotwell as well, with the latest version of that, so that's good to see. Internet, we get Firefox 4 of course, and the other GNOME tools, Transmission and Empathy, filling in the spaces for peer-to-peer and for instant messaging, which again, as I said, Empathy has brilliant integration into the desktop. Office, you don't get anything at all except for Evolution, which again ties into your calendar up top here. And sound and video, you get a fair bit. You get an audio CD extractor, you get Cheese, Movie Player, and Rhythm Box, so that's nothing really to write home about. And of course, Fedora is only about a 500 meg download, so it's really quite a minimal download considering the very modern experience that you get. So here in the system tools, we've just got your add and remove software, bug reporting, deja dupe. You can see what it is. It's very easy to see. Quite honestly, in the future, it's going to be very easy for GNOME 3 desktops for people like myself to review. I don't have to zoom in for you to see what the applications are. You can see the icons. They're nice and big and colorful, so that's very nice. Add and remove software is just the standard GNOME package management. Again, nothing fancy. Everybody's seen this before. This has been around for eons. There have been rumblings of a unified software manager in the look of Ubuntu Software Center, but we're yet to see that. And when that happens, then that will be great news. So you can see here I'm just rolling around desktops, and I can launch, search and launch, or I can just click and launch. Quite honestly, I've gotten used to this way of working in the couple of weeks that I was running Fedora 15, the beta, and the only reason I stopped running it was because of screencasting issues and the like. But honestly, I'd be happy to run GNOME 3 as an everyday system. I don't really have any qualms with it at all. I prefer it to Ubuntu Unity at this point, mainly because of expandability. And let me expand on said topic. So first of all, to launch system settings, you can go up to your menu here and click on System Settings. It's not that difficult. Secondly, once you're in System Settings, you can change, the System Settings has been completely rewritten for GNOME 3, and the categories are very consolidated, they're very toned down. It's very easy to get to what you want to get to. So background, for instance, you just come in here, click background, and it'll load up all the wallpapers that you have. Quick side note, they have included some very beautiful wallpapers with Fedora 15, so I do give them a major thumbs up for that, as in the past they have slacked in the looks department. But I'm going to go outright and say it right now, GNOME 3 with GNOME Shell and their wallpapers are absolutely gorgeous, and that's really all I need to say about that. If you don't think that GNOME 3 is your cup of tea, then that's just fine, but as far as I'm concerned, it's a very modern desktop experience. It looks absolutely stunning, and they've done a great job in making it look nice, making it look presentable to the average user. Having said that, GNOME 3 is not really for the average user at this point. Definitely one of those situations where it's made by software developers for nerds, more or less, but I can see this really gaining traction once people are getting more and more accustomed to these tablet-type UIs. So anyone who spent any sort of time on an iPad or something like that is going to really click with this interface straight away. Also, a quick side mention, the power management apparently has had some rework on the back end. So they've done some major work for the power management for Fedora 15. So that is always nice to see, and I'm glad that they've worked that in, as power management is something that is constantly a problem under Linux, in my opinion anyway. Networking is very easy as well. It's very simple to configure your own network. There's no real issues there whatsoever. If you have wireless, that will also come up. Region and languages, no worries. All your messaging and VoIP accounts you can configure through here as well. Lots of different options in here that, quite honestly, this is much neater and much cleaner than the KDE system settings, and you can see we've even got a search bar here that we can use. So honestly, that is quite a nice addition. Good rewrite. They've done a nice job with that. Also, as far as expandability goes, GNOME 3 is famous now for its extensions. Extensions are basically to do with JavaScript. Now, the entire GNOME Shell environment, not GTK3, just GNOME Shell, is written in JavaScript. Therefore, it is highly customizable and highly adaptable. This means that you can change pretty much anything about the desktop and about the way it looks, and many people already have. If you take the time to do a quick Google search for GNOME 3 extensions, you're going to come up with all sorts of stuff that people have already written, even considering that Fedora has only been on the ground now for about a day or so. So they're really getting behind the customization of GNOME 3, and that's, to me, that is very attractive, as Unity is extremely locked down. At this point, they are working on it, as I've said before. So in reality, I think GNOME 3 is definitely a worthwhile future. They've really done a nice job in integrating everything into the desktop. They've really made it look very modern, very polished, very nice. They spent a lot of time developing it, and it shows. Everything, all the small details that you generally gloss over are there. This is very touch enabled. You can see the switches here under accessibility are very touchscreen oriented, if you know what I mean. This desktop environment has really been developed from the ground up for all sorts of users. Again, it's not like any desktop experience that you've ever seen before, so adoption rates are going to be kind of slow. But having said that, I think the people that do take the time to learn this desktop environment and get used to it, I think they're going to be better off in the long run. This is definitely the direction that desktop Linux is headed, whether people like it or not. But I'd say when GNOME 2.x comes to the end of life, I think most distributions are going to be happy to adopt GTK3, even as a widget set, not necessarily GNOME Shell, as that is also quite a major part of this distribution. And honestly, if you don't have the graphic capabilities of GNOME, of the GNOME Shell, you will drop back to the GNOME fallback mode. And you can see there, even the little details like the login, log out is very polished. It's just nice translucency, nice fade. So you can see here that this is just the fallback mode, which is much like the GNOME 2.x experience. And again, even this looks quite polished in itself. And you've just got your classic applications and places menu up here. So in all honesty, all hope is not lost for those who want a traditional desktop layout. They have catered for that as well, and they've catered quite aptly. Unity, on the other hand, although you can, of course, use the classic Ubuntu mode, that is still based on GNOME 2.x, so it won't be long before that is phased out, and that is no longer an option. Having said that, they do have GTK3 and the capability that you can see here to run a GNOME 2.x type experience. So also a note on Fedora as a distribution. As far as their package management is concerned, of course you have RPM and you have Yum on the command line. And honestly, Yum is a very modern package manager. It does an admirable job with dependency resolution, and it's got quite a reasonable speed, and it's respectable as far as package management is concerned. I didn't have any dependency resolution whatsoever as far as getting it installed on VirtualBox went. It really wasn't an issue. I installed the guest editions in VirtualBox 4.0.8, and it had a few recommendations for the packages I should download. Downloaded, installed everything fine. Proxy support was there. On my native install, on my native hardware, hardware support was out of the box. I didn't have any issues whatsoever. Proxies worked just fine, and sound and graphics and all that fun stuff worked just dandy. So compatibility is definitely there for those who need it. So yes, Fedora has a very large install base. They do a very good job with their distribution, and this is definitely the first Fedora distribution that I've actually looked into, as it is something a lot more interesting than what has been offered in the past. So good job on the Fedora team for getting this out there and getting people using it. It's going to be definitely interesting to see what the adoption rates for GNOME 3 are, and indeed the direction of the Linux desktop of the future. Fedora has definitely proven its reputation to provide an innovative, customizable, user-friendly, but somewhat power user-directed distribution.